All right, let's go. All right. Panthers got 13 Canadians, and Vegas got 16 Canadians. And
they're the most in the playoffs.
And I'll just give you an illustration that the Rangers have 3. Canadians get brought up thinking of Stanley Cup. And 13 Canadian Panthers had 13 Canadians, and Vegas has 16 Canadians. So I thought I'd throw that in. I'm going to throw that in until they win it.
That's right. Well, whoever wins, if the Panthers win,
and I watched the game last night. I said, I don't care. Vegas is going to win. They'll win.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, it was a good game last night.
It was a good game.
So what do you think is going to happen in the series?
Well, Vegas is going to win. They're going to win with the 16 Canadians. They better win.
Well, yeah, but Panthers got 10 boys from Ontario.
Yeah.
So they might, the boys from Ontario might start.
Well, you notice that he won't have anything to do with the Tkachuk. Tkachuk tried to start some trouble at the end there.
Yeah.
When it was up a couple of goals.
But if the scores are run up, if one game gets up like 4 or 5 goals with about 5
somebody
minutes.
Somebody will get him.
Yeah. Well, Peter Angelo might.
He's a good hockey player.
Give a chop.
He's a pretty good hockey player.
I was saying that we were watching that game last night, and the Vegas goal, the defenseman wound up blast a shot, hit Duclair right on the ankle.
Bone.
And he tries to stay up and go around. The guy walked around him and he scored. I thought that looked like that guy shot that puck on purpose.
It did look like he shot it on purpose.
It looked like, you want to block this shot? I'm going to tear your ankle off.
Did you see him on the bench, the poor guy?
Yeah. When you played, your skates were nothing but like a leather boot. It was like a Converse.
It was kangaroo leather.
Yeah.
And the guys used to take it and have it sewn up at the shoemakers.
What, like put extra stuff in it?
To make it stronger, like the ankles wouldn't move. And I used to look at some of the guys' ankles.
Well, didn't they used to have equipment that you could, ankle protectors you could strap on around?
Yeah, what we used to have on, I tried to get, the guy that used to use them was John Rattel, of all guys.
Yeah. Made you look clunky, though, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. If they were too, well, you wouldn't even notice it's their one. I got them, and I showed them a few times on Hockey Night in Canada.
Yeah. Well, they don't need them now because the boots are so...
Well, they have ones that are...
Well, now instead of ankle guards, they have them for the front.
Yeah, they have them for the front.
Because the boots on the side are like you could shoot a bullet and it won't go through, but...
Oh, boy. Does it hurt when you get... It looked like... And then that guy did look like he shot it, and then the guy went down... He
walked around him and scored.
Well, we say that all the time. If you think a guy takes a shot at the goalie's head, I always say, do you think he was aiming for the goalie's head? You always seem to be able to tell whether they're aiming or not.
The only guy I know that shot at the goalie's head and tried to hit him was Bobby Schmatz.
And what did we call that term? Wasting it? Waste a shot on him?
Oh, I used to waste one.
Waste one. Yeah,
and you waste one when when you know you can't go anywhere.
No, you straighten them up, right?
Straighten them up. That's what he used to. I just straighten them up a bit.
So then he shoots high on the goalie around his head, and the goalie kind of straightens up, and then the next one he puts right along the ice.
Yeah, he got 8 goals one year.
Well, that year against LA, he got 7 goals on 7 shots.
Yeah.
Just thought
And I don't blame Rogie Vachon either. He made a Hall of Fame, Rogie Vachon.
Yeah. He was one of the last of the great small goalies.
Yeah. And he was good.
So, Dad, the Leafs have a new GM, Brad Trebling.
Yes,
do you know who his dad is?
What? I was wondering that because I met his dad at one of his dad used to go to the Bobby Orr golf.
Big tall guy. Yeah, big tall guy.
His dad used to go to the Bobby Orr golf tournament. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The owner of Boston Pizza.
I remember he used
on
to
Dragon's Den. Yeah.
And he was a big tall guy, and this guy's a big tall guy too, and he looks like him too.
Yeah, I remember you asking the guy. You said, "How did you name your franchise Boston Pizza?" Like, thinking that there was some connection to Boston. And he says, no, they they just needed a strong sounding name.
You know what happened was, well, I asked him. At one time, it was owned by an old Italian guy, and he says he liked Boston Bruins. You know, I don't know why he liked the Boston Bruins. He says, I like that guy that plays that blonde-haired guy that plays for them on. And he said, Bobby Orr, he says, yeah, let's name it Boston. That's how it got named Boston Pizza.
And these are the conversations that go on at Bobby Orr's golf tournament, folks.
No, Bobby never phoned me the other day, and he gave me heck that I hadn't phoned him in a long time. I said, Bobby, I phoned you, and the lady says, do not accept. Oh, you don't have my right number. Anyhow,
You have the wrong number. You have this wrong number.
I remember you asking him. I said, I think that was.
Oh, you're not going to bring that up again.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. Go ahead, Cindy. Tell a story.
Well, I think I told you. I asked him. Well, he was saying about how good fisherman he was. He was caught in 3 and 4 pound
he
bass.
loves fishing.
And all. And I said, so he was talking a lot. And I said, so what kind of bait did you use? And he looks at me, gives me a real dirty
And
look.
he's smoking a cigar, you were saying.
Yeah. And everyone knows, like, he goes, well, lures, of course, because, we all sort of look down upon people using live bait. And he goes, well, lures, of course. So you really gave it to me because he knew what I was insinuating. And I truly didn't believe that he would know the connotations for using live bait.
I don't know.
I remember one time we're sitting there and, bottled water all over the place, all the bottles of water. He goes, look at this. Look at this waste. Look at this bottle of water. There's only 3 sips out of it. Nobody knows who it is. It's going to get thrown in the garbage. And I said to him, well, Bob, that is why I put my initials on my bottle of water. There. He goes, you know what, Cindy? You're always thinking. See, that's what so he put his initials on, but the thing was he put it on the cap. What happened when he took the cap off? And then I said, well, Bob, I put my initials on the actual bottle of water. Yeah, once again, Cindy. I go, well, there you go. But anyway.
So if you're Brad Treveling, what would be the very first thing you do?
I would get Hellebuck. I would, and he's not going to play for Winnipeg next year because he wants too much dough.
Well, he's got 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah, well,
but they won't extend him, so they're probably going to have to trade him, right?
I would try to get a good goalie. Just shows you what a good goalie will do. You bet the best goalie usually wins the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
so do the GMs, do they wipe out their front office first too? Like, do they believe in that?
Dubas did.
Who?
Dubas did. He fired everybody. He fired the front office at.
Well, you know who else did that was Barry Trotz.
Oh yeah.
Barry Trotz. He fired everybody.
Yeah. Well, you got to get your own guys in there. Treveling didn't though. He's kept everybody.
But it's front office. I mean, I could see your coach and all that, but the front office. I mean, answer the phone and everything. I mean, really.
Well,
you got to get
Barry
your own...
Trotz. He hired that Andrew Burnett.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's a good. He was a good coach. You've been all around it. He's going to be a good coach. He scored the first goal ever. I read this here. He scored the first goal ever that it's for Nashville.
Who? Andrew Burnett?
Yeah, and he was assistant coach under Lindy Ruff.
Oh yeah.
And he led the Panthers with 337 goals. I read that.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty good.
He'll be a good coach.
And he'd been around, and you're not going to fool him.
But the one thing you mentioned, Dad, is Treveling. He's got to make a decision on the coach.
One way or another. If he's going to fire him, if he's going to keep him, one way or another, do it because he's got to get with another team. And if you wait too long, they'll all be all sewn up.
I bet you Keefe would get on another team would hire him pretty quick. Well, yeah.
And it was tough with the Leafs because evidently he was getting some messages from up above.
Yeah, that's the thing that I thought that I think that Dubas was fooling around a little bit too much with him.
Somebody was fooling around because I remember when he put that goalie in, you just don't do stuff like that. And he pointed up above. I didn't think of that.
And then when he gave heck to the Leafs in Arizona, he gave the heck to Marner and Matthews, and then the next day he had to apologize.
Well, that is the way nowadays. You have to
but I don't
apologize. You don't
think
want to
he
hurt their feelings.
Well, you did when you were made coach and GM of the Rochester Americans. You didn't have a big front office, but you got rid of most of them, right?
Well, I got rid of the two. The two.
No, I think the secretary quit. if you remember
Well, I don't want to go there. Anyhow, he doesn't have, listen, people he has to worry about is Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, Nylander, and Tavares. That's the only guys he's got to make sure he doesn't lose, because if he loses he loses those guys.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like he's got to make decisions with Austin Matthews, because if they don't sign him by July 1st, then he has a no move trade or no move clause.
Yeah, well,
then what do you do? Like, you lose him for nothing, or you trade him later on?
Well, that's going to be tough, because he'll be pulling. You know what he'll be making next year? I'll bet you if he has a good year, he'd make about $15 million.
Yeah, he'll be the highest paid guy.
Yeah.
Well, you said that when you were watching him in the playoffs. You said you thought he was hurt. You said there's something he's hurt, and it looks like he's going to have to redo his wrist. They were saying.
Is that it?
Yeah.
He was shooting from a long ways out, and when you have a sore wrist, I mean,
it just didn't seem to have that snap like he had. And you said that, you go, there's something wrong with him. Like he says he's just not shooting it like he used to.
Yeah, he was shooting from too far out.
But let's talk about Dubas, Cindy.
Please.
Dubas, the whole deal. And it's kind of getting out now more and more that he wanted to maybe kind of take Shanahan out of the decision-making process. That's what the rumors going around, that he wanted to have more autonomy, as they said, to make the decisions. Oh, yeah. And so he goes to Pittsburgh, and he's not GM. He's the head of hockey operations.
Did they keep Brian Burke?
No, Burke and Hextall.
No, that's right.
All those
what am I
guys are
talking
gone.
about? They got rid of both of them.
But see, so you and I were talking.
Well,
what do you call that when you?
Well, I called it and we were discussing what the Peter principle is, but he just keeps going up, like he's failing, and yet he climbs up the top. I said, Tim, if it's a woman doing that, keeps getting a better job and not delivering, I don't know what you'd think, but I just don't get it. How does a guy like that just keep getting higher and higher up into the chain of command?
Yeah, because. Like, I looked at Dubas, his stats, right? So he took over the Sault Ste. Marie in 2011, 2012. And that's kind of tough because they didn't have a good team, but he was out of the playoffs. Then the next year, he was out in the first round. And the next year, he was out in the second round. And then he made assistant GM with the Leafs. And then after assistant GM, then he was made with the GM of the Leafs. He was out in the first round, 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 out in the second round. And now he's the head of hockey operations. And you look and you go...
In Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. So you go, like, what did he do to get to that point where he could be head of hockey operations?
He looks good.
So now you look at... So I said, because you and I, we've all said, the Leafs should get Mark Hunter and get Dale as coach. Give it a shot, right? Mark Hunter... London Knights, they never rebuild, they only reload, lost in the finals this year. So the same times...
They should be in the... Peterborough did pretty good out there in
the Memorial Cup.
Yeah, in the Memorial Cup.
But this was what Mark Hunter, this was his stats at the same time. Well, when Dubas was in the Sioux, Mark Hunter won the OHL championship, lost the Memorial Cup finals, then the next year won the OHL championship. And winning the OHL championship twice in a row is really hard.
The Memorial Cup is harder to win than any because you only get one shot at it. Well, usually you one shot.
And then 2013, 2014, they hosted the Memorial Cup. 2016, they win the Memorial Cup. And then 2020, he wins the World Juniors. They've been in the Memorial Cup 5 times since Mark and Dale took over.
Trevor Whiffen was there.
Yep.
Our buddy was there.
And Mark played 600 games and won a Stanley Cup. And he's done all this in junior hockey and doesn't get a shot. And you have guys that have not done anything and are general manager and heads of hockey operations. So,
I don't know, Tim. You got to say the right thing at the right. You have to have the right owner, and you have to say the right thing at the right time. Like Mike Fuda should be. He should be. He should. There's the guy that should be general manager. And I told him, I said, you can't go in and say that you know everything, because they say, I better get rid of this guy. Just go in and act stupid. And they'll say, well,
it would take.
I shouldn't say stupid.
And then you're not a threat to anybody.
Well, yeah, and you don't act stupid, but don't
But Mark, like I think you'd have to be totally 100% a confident guy because Mark and Dale would take right over.
Yeah.
Like if you said to Mark or Dale, put that goalie in.
Yeah, but you know who would give me the blame would be Shanahan. If they come in and they failed, but they wouldn't fail.
They wouldn't fail.
No, they would never fail.
Well, I always say, and I'll say it, I'll make it official. I think you guys are very kind to Shanahan.
Well,
You don't seem to knock him ever.
well,
with the
Brendan
decisions.
Shanahan. I remember one time I give him heck. He was in charge of one time of handing out penalties. I remember.
Yeah, I think he was something with the NHL for penalties or something. I think he had something to do with it.
And we were walking out, and he was walking out, and we were going in the car, and he opened the car door, and he was walking out with all the NHL guys, and I hear my favorite guy doesn't like me anymore.
Yeah. No, he said, "Am I still your fine broth of an Irish lad?"
Oh, that was it.
Yeah.
I knew he said something funny like that.
Yeah.
And all the guys laughed, and I said, "Yeah, you still are, even though you do stupid things."
But again, you just look at the success of Mark and Dale, and they say they never build, they only reload. And you and I, Dad, Cindy, we used to go out scouting 17 years, and the guy you saw the most was Mark Hunter. Mark Hunter and Dale DeGray were the two guys I saw the most. Steve Stales too, but Mark by far was the guy.
Mark was out. Cole Rangers, there would be three guys there, and he'd be there all by himself.
He'd be there watching, and not just like most of the GMs would go out and they would look at the number one teams, right? He'd go out and look at the fourth and fifth and sixth.
What do you say about one guy? He asked a question about one guy. What was it?
Oh, I told the last time he was sitting there and he asked me about a guy, and I said, "Oh, he's pretty good." And he goes, "He's not chicken, is he? He's not yellow. I can't have a guy that's yellow on my team." He did say yellow, but he says, I can't. And I said, "Well, he chirps." He goes, "Oh, I like guys that chirp." Well, I said, "Watch, he'll chirp." "Oh, that's good. I like guys that chirp." But yeah, he's good. But I mean, it's just funny looking at Dubas's credentials, and you look at Mark Hunter's credentials.
Well,
He must be a smooth talker to get those.
Oh, Dubas is. It's. I can hear what Dubas said to those guys. You have to trust the process. You got to trust the process. That's his line, right?
That is tagline.
Right. But even then, like we were watching or we were reading the news the other day, and one of the reporters said he had 5 winning seasons, and you look and you go, well, you got to define winning.
Is winning just making the playoffs in some people's eyes?
I went to the 7th game in overtime and got fired.
Cindy and Dad, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Spreads.ca. They're a Canadian-owned online casino and sportsbook. And if you sign up now and use the promo GRAPE, they match your deposit up to $500. You get 10 spins on the big wheel for some big dough, and your first sports bet, they match you $25. And now it's playoff time, so you want to get in there. You think you know what's going on. It's always fun even to put a couple of bucks on it.
Yeah.
So, Dad, we're going to take a couple of questions from social media. And Steve from Facebook wrote, Panthers and Canes played 4 overtimes. What was the longest game you've ever played?
I think it was in Quebec. I think we were playing in overtime. And Daryl Sly.
Like how many? 3?
I think about 3.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever played 4. No, I never. I know I never played in 4. 3, I think it was the longest we ever played. And Daryl Sly said, I'm putting this puck in the net. And he got the puck, and he just went right down the center. I can see it now. And he hit the goalie, and the puck went in. Both of them went into the net. And Len Lundy was standing at the side and hit the net.
Yeah, hit the goalpost.
Yeah, and he got credit for the goal. I'm running around after the game. We just won a championship. Daryl, you scored that goal. Never mind. Daryl said, "Don't bother with it." I said, "No, you scored that goal," and doesn't matter. He didn't care. But anyhow, that was the closest. That was the year that Eddie Litzenberg broke Harvey's hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the same year. Thank goodness. If Harvey. Boy, was Harvey ever good. He was still good.
Why was he in the American League?
Why? You want to know? Because he went.
Like he was the Norris Trophy winner in the NHL. And
he was first All-Star. He was captain of the Stanley Cup championships, and they traded him to New York Rangers. You know why? Because he thought of guys like me in the minor leagues, and they traded him to New York. Imagine.
Because was he trying to get the Union?
He tried to get the Union, and we next show I'll get all the guys that were in that tried to get the Union and were shipped to Chicago. Anyhow, that was the longest I was. It was 3. And I'm walking out with the puck, and I went and got the puck, and I was going to give it to Dr. Samuel McVeigh. I never forgot his name. I couldn't play anymore because I couldn't breathe. I had bronchitis or something, whatever I had. And he says, I'm going to put you on heavy doses of prednisone.
Tim, that's your drug of choice.
Yeah. With a kidney transplant, they put you on prednisone.
High dosages, yeah.
Well, anyhow, I got on that, and he says it'd be so high. He says you'll love it, and he started me off, and he put me right up to 10. I think I was 10, and boy, did I ever feel good. And by gall, right after that, it was as clear as a bell. And Dr. Samuel. So I'm walking out afterwards, and I had the puck. I remember I had the puck on my thing, and I had to be walking out with Joe Crozier, and I said I think I told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. He said. I said, I have that puck. I'm going to give it to Dr. Samuel McVeigh, the winning goal. He says, give it to me. And I said, well, I was going to give it to the doctor. He says, give it to me. I often wonder if he ever did give him that puck.
Oh, but so we talked about that Harvey. He said that, tell that story, because I think a lot of people wouldn't believe it, that Crozier said, there's no way we're winning this.
Joe Crozier said, there's no way we're winning this. We're winning the cup. He said, if Harvey keeps playing the way he's playing, and the first shift out, I don't know whether he knew it or not, and I don't know whether he talked to him when he broke his hand.
Who broke his hand?
Eddie Litzenberger.
Oh, you have another good story about Eddie Litzenberger, about him upsetting Jerry Cheevers. You want to tell that story?
I don't know. Well, okay, I'll tell it.
Yeah, go for it. Folks, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, I know. It's stupid. But anyhow...
Why don't we'll tell that next week? Because
we'll tell that next week. We don't have
running a little
time.
bit long.
Okay, Dad, one of your old teammates from Hershey, Pennsylvania passed away.
Yeah, and I told you about it then, Cindy, and I asked him, and I said, do you know this guy? And you never heard of him.
So his name was Wilmot Charles Willie the Whip Marshall.
Oh,
So just again to give you an example of who he was, he played in the American Hockey League when you were playing, right?
Yeah,
you played with him in Hershey. When he retired, he held the all-time record in the American Hockey League for most goals, most points, most assists, most hat tricks, and most games played. He won 3 Calder Cups and was an all-star 4 times and made the American...
And never got a shot.
He played 30 games in the NHL. That was it. And the AHL, the American Hockey League, the William Marshall Award is for the guy who scores the most goals each season. So it's like the American League version of Rocket Richard Trophy.
And the guys go down there. Who's Willie Marshall? You know what he did? He was. I have to admit, and Willie wouldn't mind me saying this. He was a drinker. But he never ever went bananas or anything. You know, I knew a few guys that used to go bananas all the time. Oh, I got to tell you a story about this time. Scotty Alexander was our trainer in Hershey. I bought a beautiful trench coat. And he burned it. He used to smoke a lot. Everybody smoked back in those days. And he burned a big hole right in the front. But he wore it anyhow. And I remember Willie at the thing, do you smell something burning?
Oh,
and
nice.
He did. He gave it to him. Oh, I can't tell you what he said to him. You nothing. And Willie kept saying, I still smell something burning. It was tough. Willie the Whip. And he turned religious halfway through his life or something, and we're going to end on and he.
So just give us like an example. If he was playing in the NHL, how much would he be making today, and who does he kind of play?
Tim, I can't tell you what he would be making today in today's hockey. Yeah. And back then it was big boy hockey, and you'd stand in front and you'd get killed. And I saw some of the penalties last night. Anyhow, I would say I can't think of anybody.
You said he was kind of like Marner, but a little tougher.
Well, he was kind of like Marner, But he was one of those well, you know what he was like? He was like Gretzky.
Yeah.
Yeah, after the game, you'd never know he was even playing. And you'd look at the goal, you get 3 goals. How did you get 3 goals? It reminded me of Gretzky. Yeah, come to think of it.
Uh-huh.
Anyhow, I'd like to end with one of his poems, and I think he'd like that. Not the man, I'm not the man I used to be. I was blind and thought I could see. I walked in darkness as if it were light. I did everything wrong and said it was right. No, I'm not the man I used to be. All my sins I left at my Savior's knee. He rearranged my life, he set me free. No, I'm not the man I used to be.